On May 8, 2025, something happened that had never occurred in 2,000 years of Catholic history. For the first time ever, an American became Pope. But here's what will shock you even more. Most Americans had never heard of this man before that day. I'm about to tell you the real story of Robert Francis Prevost, now Pope Leo XIV. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this quiet mathematician from Chicago became the most powerful religious leader on earth. You'll discover his incredible 30-year journey as a missionary in Peru, where he lived among the poorest people in South America. You'll learn why he was considered the least American of all American cardinals. And you'll find out what his election means for 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide. This isn't just the story of a new pope. This is the story of how a man who spent his life serving others suddenly found himself leading the world's largest religious organization. And trust me, the real facts are more amazing than any fiction. Let me take you back to April 21st, 2025, Easter Monday. Pope Francis, the beloved 88-year-old Argentine pope, made his final public appearance on Easter Sunday. The next day, he died, peacefully in his sleep, ending one of the most transformative papacies in modern history. The Catholic world mourned immediately. Pope Francis had been a revolutionary leader who focused on helping the poor, protecting the environment, and making the church more welcoming to everyone. But according to church law, life had to go on. Within days, 133 cardinals from around the world received their call to Rome. These are the only men who can elect a new pope, and they would have to make one of the most important decisions in religious history. On May 6th, the cardinals entered the Sistine Chapel for the conclave. They took sacred oaths of secrecy. Breaking these oaths means immediate excommunication from the church. Then the doors were locked, and the waiting began. For 2 days, black smoke rose from the chapel's famous chimney. This meant no decision yet. The world watched and waited. Then, at exactly 11:47 a.m. on May 8th, everything changed. White smoke appeared. The crowds in St. Peter's Square erupted in celebration. A new pope had been chosen. When Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re stepped onto the balcony to announce the result, his words shocked the world. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who has taken the name Leo XIV. Social media exploded instantly. News anchors struggled to find information about this unknown American. The question everyone was asking was simple. Who is this man? The answer begins in Chicago, Illinois, on September 14, 1955. Robert Francis Prevost was born into an ordinary American family with extraordinary diversity. His ancestry included French, Italian, and Spanish roots. Growing up in Chicago during the 1960s and 70s, young Robert witnessed some of the most turbulent times in American history. The Civil Rights Movement, Vietnam War protests, and massive social changes were happening all around him. But Robert was different from other kids his age. While his friends dreamed about sports and careers, Robert felt drawn to something deeper. He was fascinated by mathematics and science, but also by questions about faith and helping others. As a teenager, Robert made a decision that surprised his family and friends. He wanted to become a Catholic priest. This wasn't a casual choice. Robert had thought deeply about dedicating his entire life to serving God and other people. He began his studies at the minor seminary of the Augustinian Fathers, then continued at Villanova University in Pennsylvania. Here's something remarkable. Robert earned a degree in mathematics in 1977 and also studied philosophy. Think about this. The future pope was a mathematician. Before entering religious life fully, Robert even taught math and physics at a Catholic high school in Chicago. He could have had a comfortable career as a teacher or professor. But Robert had bigger plans. On September 1st, 1977, he officially became a novice with the Augustinian order. His fellow students remembered him as particularly committed to missionary work and the most community-minded among them. In the early 1980s, Father Robert Prevost made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He volunteered to become a missionary in Peru, one of South America's poorest countries. This wasn't a short-term mission trip. Robert was committing to spend years, possibly decades, living and working among people who had almost nothing. He was trading his comfortable American life for uncertainty, poverty, and danger. When Robert arrived in Peru, he encountered poverty beyond anything he had imagined in Chicago. Families living in homes made of cardboard and metal sheets. Children walking miles every day just to find clean water. Parents working back-breaking jobs for dollars per day. But instead of being overwhelmed, Robert did something extraordinary. He didn't just visit these communities, he moved into them permanently. He learned Spanish fluently. He ate the same food, lived in the same conditions, and faced the same challenges as the people he came to serve. Robert spent a decade working in Trujillo, a coastal city in northern Peru. Here, he didn't just preach, he acted. He organized literacy programs for adults who would never learn to read. He helped farmers learn better agricultural techniques. He created sports programs to keep young people away from gangs and drugs. At age 30, Father Prevost volunteered for even more challenging work in Chulacanes, a remote Andean town where political unrest made daily life dangerous. There, he founded literacy programs for peasants, taught sustainable farming techniques, and organized sports leagues to keep youth away from guerrilla recruitment. For nearly 30 years, this became Robert's life. While other American priests worked in comfortable parishes back home, Robert was living with Peru's poorest families, learning their languages, understanding their struggles, and dedicating every day to making their lives better. Robert's extraordinary dedication didn't go unnoticed. Church leaders began to see that this American priest was different from others. He wasn't interested in climbing the church hierarchy. He genuinely cared about serving people. In 2001, Robert's life took a major turn. He was elected Prior General of the Augustine Order, essentially becoming the worldwide leader of all Augustinian priests and monks. This was a huge responsibility, overseeing religious communities in dozens of countries. For 12 years, from 2001 to 2013, Robert led the Augustinian order with the same dedication he had shown in Peru. But he never forgot his roots. Even as a powerful church leader, he continued advocating for the poor and marginalized. In 2014, Robert returned to Peru in a new role, as Bishop of Chiclayo, another Peruvian city. This appointment was remarkable because the Vatican was essentially saying, "We trust this American to lead a Latin American diocese." As Bishop of Chiclayo from 2014 to 2023, Robert continued his life's work. He spoke fluent Spanish with his parishioners. He understood their culture, their struggles, and their hopes. Local people didn't see him as a foreign bishop, they saw him as one of their own. Here's what made Robert unique among church leaders. He had spent more time living with poor people than with rich donors. He understood hunger, poverty, and injustice not from books, but from personal experience. In 2023, Pope Francis made a decision that would change everything. He called Robert to Rome and made him a cardinal, one of the Church's highest positions. But even more importantly, Pope Francis appointed Robert as head of the Congregation for Institutes of Consecrated Life. This sounds complicated, but it's actually one of the most powerful jobs in the Vatican. Robert was now responsible for all Catholic monks, nuns, and religious orders worldwide. Millions of people dedicated to serving others. When the 133 cardinals gathered in the Sistine Chapel on May 6, 2025, most experts predicted the next pope would come from Africa or Asia, regions where the Catholic Church is growing rapidly. Almost nobody mentioned Robert Prevost as a possibility. Why? Americans were seen as too wealthy, too powerful, and too connected to politics to lead a global church. Many Catholics worldwide didn't trust Americans to understand their problems. But something remarkable happened inside that locked chapel. Cardinal after cardinal stood up and spoke about Robert Prevost. They talked about his 30 years in Peru. They described his work with the poorest people in Latin America. They mentioned his fluent Spanish and his deep understanding of different cultures. Most importantly, they emphasized something that made Robert unique among American cardinals. He was considered the least American of all the U.S. cardinals. He had lived most of his adult life outside the United States. He understood poverty, inequality, and suffering from personal experience. Other American cardinals lived comfortable lives in wealthy American cities. Robert had chosen to live with people who struggled to find food every day. The voting was secret, but later reports suggested that Robert's support grew throughout the 2 days of deliberation. Cardinals from Latin America, Africa, and Asia saw him as someone who truly understood their challenges. On May 8th, after multiple rounds of voting, Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost received the required 2/3 majority. He had been chosen as the 267th Pope in Catholic history, and the first American ever to hold this position. When Robert became Pope, he chose the name Leo XIV. This choice reveals everything about his vision for the Church's future. He selected this name to honor Pope Leo XIII, who led the Church from 1878 to 1903. Leo XIII was famous for modernizing Catholic teaching during the Industrial Revolution, a time when new technologies and social changes were transforming the world. Pope Leo XIII wrote groundbreaking documents about workers' rights, economic justice, and the Church's role in addressing social problems. He believed the Church needed to help ordinary people deal with the challenges of rapid change. Today, we're living through what experts call the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the age of artificial intelligence, social media, and digital technology. Pope Leo XIV believes the Church faces similar challenges now that Leo XIII faced over 120 years ago. The name Leo also means lion in Latin, a symbol of courage and strong leadership. By choosing this name, the new pope was sending a clear message. He plans to be a brave leader who isn't afraid to tackle difficult modern problems. In his first speech as pope, Leo XIV did something that surprised many people. Instead of focusing only on traditional religious topics, he talked about climate change, social media, economic inequality, and artificial intelligence as challenges the Church must help address. So, what exactly does Pope Leo XIV believe? Based on his first months in office, several themes are already emerging that show how different he is from previous popes. First, environmental protection. Following Pope Francis's example, Leo XIV sees climate change as a moral issue, not just a political one. He believes the Church has a responsibility to lead on environmental protection because climate change hurts poor people the most. Second, economic justice. Remember his 30 decades in Peru? That experience taught Leo XIV that extreme inequality destroys families and communities. He's calling for economic systems that help everyone, not just wealthy people. Third, global cooperation. Leo XIV believes that Catholics must work together with people of all faiths, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, and others, to solve problems that affect everyone. Fourth, embracing technology wisely. As a former mathematician, Leo XIV understands technology better than most religious leaders, but he also warns that technology without moral guidance can harm human dignity. And fifth, connecting with young people. Leo XIV knows that millions of young Catholics are leaving the Church because it seems outdated. He's already using modern communication methods to reach younger generations. Perhaps most importantly, Pope Leo XIV brings a unique perspective to church leadership. He's the first pope in modern history who has spent more time living with poor people than with wealthy donors or powerful politicians. But Pope Leo XIV faces enormous challenges that won't be easy to solve. Inside the Church, traditional Catholics worry that he might change things too quickly. Some bishops and cardinals prefer older ways of doing things and resist modernization. Conservative groups argue that the Church should focus on traditional spiritual teachings rather than modern social issues. They worry that discussing climate change and economic inequality makes the Church too political. Outside the Church, Leo XIV faces different challenges. As an American pope, some people question whether he can truly represent global perspectives. Critics worry about American influence on church decisions affecting people worldwide. He also inherits massive global problems: wars in multiple countries, millions of refugees, rising authoritarianism, religious persecution, and growing inequality between rich and poor nations. But here's what's remarkable about Pope Leo XIV. His 30 years in Peru prepared him for exactly these challenges. He has spent his entire adult life working with people facing poverty, violence, and injustice. Unlike previous popes who learned about global problems from reports and meetings, Leo XIV has lived these problems personally. He has comforted families who lost everything. He has worked in communities affected by violence. He has seen how poverty and inequality destroy human dignity. So what does Pope Leo XIV's leadership mean for the future of the Catholic Church and the world? First, expect the Church to become much more focused on social justice issues. Leo XIV's experience in Peru will likely influence church teachings about poverty, inequality, and economic systems.
Second, environmental protection will probably become a central Catholic message. Don't be surprised if Catholic institutions worldwide start leading on climate action and renewable energy. Third, the Church will likely work more closely with other religious traditions. Leo XIV's global perspective suggests he'll build bridges between Catholics and people of other faiths. Fourth, technology and digital communication will play larger roles in church activities. As a former mathematician, Leo XIV understands technology's potential to connect people and spread positive messages. And fifth, the Church will probably attract more people from developing countries who see Leo XIV as someone who truly understands their struggles. Most importantly, Pope Leo XIV represents something completely new. A religious leader who combines deep spiritual faith with practical experience helping the world's poorest people. Whether you're Catholic or not, religious or not, Pope Leo XIV's leadership will affect your world. His positions on climate change, economic justice, and global cooperation will influence conversations and policies for decades to come. And that's the incredible true story of Pope Leo XIV, from a mathematics student in Chicago to the leader of 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide. From teaching high school math to living in poverty in Peru to making history as the first American pope ever elected. This story proves something amazing. Sometimes the most powerful people are those who choose to serve others rather than themselves. Robert Prevost could have had a comfortable life as a professor or businessman. Instead, he spent 30 years living with people who had almost nothing. And that experience prepared him to lead the world's largest religious organization.
But here's the thing. This story is just beginning. Pope Leo XIV is 69 years old, which means he could lead the Catholic Church for the next 15 to 20 years. Every decision he makes will affect billions of people around the world. If this incredible true story amazed you, you must subscribe to LearnGold English right now. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. I spend weeks researching the most fascinating real stories from around the world, told in clear English, to help you improve your language skills while learning incredible facts. I guarantee you won't find content like this anywhere else on YouTube. And absolutely smash that like button if you want me to create more videos about world leaders, religious history, and incredible true stories that are shaping our world right now. Your likes literally tell me what stories you want to hear next, and they help other English learners discover these amazing true stories. But most importantly, I need you to comment below in English and tell me, what shocked you most about Pope Leo XIV's real story? Was it his 30 years in Peru, his background as a mathematician, or the fact that he's the first American pope in 2,000 years of history? Practice your English by writing your thoughts in the comments. I personally read every single comment and reply to as many as possible. Your engagement helps other English learners discover these amazing true stories, and it helps me understand what content you want to see next. Don't forget to subscribe to LearnGold English for more incredible true stories that will improve your English while fascinating your mind. If you absolutely loved this story, check out my playlist called World Leaders You Never Knew About. These stories will blow your mind just as much as this one did. Thanks for joining me on LearnGold English for this incredible journey from Chicago to the Vatican. Keep practicing your English. Keep learning amazing facts about our world, and I'll see you in the next incredible true story.